I stopped in the hallway because I heard my name. Claire will handle it, Lauren said, her voice light, practiced. She always does. My mother laughed softly, not surprised, not correcting her, just amused. I pressed my palm against the wall to steady myself. The wedding magazine slipped in my other hand, the pages bending under my grip. It makes sense, my father added. 1 celebration, 2 milestones. Everyone wins. Lauren's chair scraped back, and it's only fair. My anniversary deserves the same attention as her wedding. They were talking about my wedding. They were planning it without me. I didn't step forward. I didn't interrupt. I stood there, listening, while something old and familiar tightened in my chest. I was 10 again, watching Lauren open my birthday presents while everyone praised her for being generous. I remembered smiling because that was easier than explaining why it hurt. Right then, before anything else, let me be clear about what you're hearing. This story is an original creation by the writing team of the Family Afterlight channel, inspired by the hidden corners of family life and told with the purpose of fostering emotional connection and spreading understanding. Claire won't mind, my mother said. She's practical. Practical. That was the word they used when they wanted something. I backed away quietly and stepped outside. The air felt too sharp, like it might crack me open. I sat in my car with the engine off, keys cold in my hand, and stared at the steering wheel until my phone buzzed. Ethan. I answered without saying hello. They're doing it again, I said. He didn't rush to fill the silence. He never did. What did you hear they're combining the wedding? I said, mine, with Lauren's anniversary, and they already decided I'm paying for everything. Yes, I expected anger. I expected him to swear or tell me to confront them. Instead, he said, "Are you safe right now?" That question landed harder than anything else. I think so. I said, "Come home." He said, "We'll talk." I will. I said. Then, quieter. "I'm not overreacting. Am I?" "No," he said. "You're finally listening to yourself." I sat there a moment longer after the call ended. If you've ever felt that split second when you realize a pattern you can't unsee, you know what came next. I wasn't crying. I wasn't panicking. I was deciding. And if you've ever stayed silent in a moment like that, just to see how it plays out, stay with me. This isn't the part where I break. It's the part where I stop paying the price for everyone else's comfort. 5 years earlier, my father called me into his study like it was a business meeting. "Sit," Richard said, gesturing to the chair across from his desk. "We need to talk about Lauren's wedding." My mother, Susan, stood by the window with her arms folded, already braced for agreement. Mark lost his job. My father continued, "Just temporary. These things happen." I nodded, because that was what I had been trained to do. "We're covering what we can," Susan added quickly, "but there's a gap." How much of a gap, I asked. My father slid a paper across the desk. $12,800. The number sat between us, heavy and exact. "That's my education fund," I said. Susan sighed, the way she always did when she wanted me to feel unreasonable. "Claire, you can always go back to school. Your sister only gets married once. Family comes first," my father said, not unkindly, firmly. Lauren appeared in the doorway then, already in her robe, glowing with excitement. "Dad said you might help," she said, eyes bright. "I knew you would." I didn't say yes, not out loud, but the money left my account 2 days later. I withdrew from my classes the following week. Susan hugged me in the kitchen and whispered, "You're so strong. I don't know what we'd do without you." Lauren's wedding was beautiful. Crystal glasses, a live band, a dress that cost more than my car. I worked a double shift the next morning, my feet aching while I watched photos roll in on social media. That night, as the band played and guests toasted my sister's future, I stood near the back of the reception hall holding my phone. Lauren spun past me, laughing, her new husband's hands at her waist. She leaned in and said, "I'll never forget what you did for me." I believed her. 3 semesters passed, then 4. I never re-enrolled. Life filled the space where my plans had been. Bills, rent, responsibility. Whenever I hesitated about helping again, Susan would smile and say, "You always land on your feet." And I did. That was the problem. By the time I drove away from my parents' house that night, Wedding magazine bent in my lap, I understood something I hadn't allowed myself to name before. Being responsible had never protected me. It had made me useful. My mother called it a simple family dinner, which meant the good plates were out and nothing about it was simple. Susan waited until we were seated. She always did. She liked an audience. "We've been thinking," she said, folding her napkin carefully, "about how special this season is." Lauren arrived late, as usual, sliding into her chair with a smile and a folder tucked under her arm. Ethan's hand found mine under the table, warm and steady. 2 milestones so close together, my father said. It felt wrong not to honor both. Lauren opened her folder and pushed it toward the center of the table. So we had an idea. Inside were color-coded pages, timelines, vendor notes. Her handwriting was everywhere. "We combine them," she said. "Your wedding and my anniversary. One elegant event." I looked at her. Combine how she didn't miss a beat. "I'll have a vow renewal. Just something short. A special dance. Oh, and a second dress. Nothing too flashy." My mother smiled. "It's symbolic, family unity, and efficient." My father added, "Guests won't have to travel twice." No one looked at Ethan. No one asked me. Lauren tapped the folder. "I already spoke to a few venues. We'll need something with space. My anniversary deserves a proper celebration." The word "deserves" landed sharply. I felt the familiar pressure, the expectation that I would smooth this over by agreeing. My mouth opened automatically, then closed. "I need time to think," I said. The silence was immediate. My mother's smile froze. My father blinked, as if I had spoken in another language. "Think," he repeated. Lauren's voice softened, the way it always did when she wanted sympathy. "I thought you'd be excited." "I am," I said carefully. "About my wedding." Susan reached for the serving dish and passed it to my father. "Claire's just being practical," she said lightly. "She likes to consider the details." "That's why we trust you with the finances," my father said, patting my shoulder. "You're good at that." Lauren nodded. "You've always handled things so well." There it was. The assumption dressed up as praise. Ethan squeezed my hand. I felt it then. A shift inside me. Not anger. Clarity. "I'll get back to you," I said. Susan smiled again, relief settling in. "Of course you will. You always do." I nodded, the way I always had. But as Lauren gathered her folder and my parents began discussing guest lists like the decision was already made, I understood something with absolute certainty. They weren't waiting for my answer. They were waiting for my payment. I told my mother I was too tired to drive home. "Stay," she said quickly. "You can sleep in the guest room." It wasn't concern. It was convenience. The house went quiet before midnight. I waited longer, listening to the familiar sounds of my parents settling in, the television clicking off, my father's footsteps down the hall. When I was sure they were asleep, I slipped into his study. The computer was still on. I told myself I would only look long enough to understand what they had already decided. My hand shook when I touched the mouse. The inbox was open, the cursor blinking patiently, as if it had been waiting for me. The subject line stopped me cold. "Vendor Coordination Claire." I opened it. My mother's name appeared again and again, calm and professional. "Claire will finalize payment once contracts are signed. She prefers to handle the financial side herself. She has already approved the overall budget." Approved. I scrolled, my breath shallow. A reply from a venue manager thanked Susan for confirming that I would be the primary payer. Primary? I clicked into another folder and found receipts. A bridal boutique, 2 dresses, not mine. I pulled out my phone and checked my banking app. The transactions were labeled carefully, almost politely. Adjustments, transfers. Small enough to avoid alarms, spread out over weeks. Lauren had access to my card, years ago, when she was in college and needed help. I had never removed her. The door creaked behind me. I spun around, heart racing, but it was only the chair shifting as I stood too fast. No one had come in. I exhaled slowly and turned back to the screen. A file sat on the desktop. Wedding budget final. I opened it. The spreadsheet was immaculate. Venue $18,900. Catering $11,200. Entertainment and decor $9,150. Photography and extras $5,000. Dresses, plural, $4,500. At the bottom, the total was bolded, $48,750. Next to it, in Lauren's handwriting, was a note. Handled by Claire. My vision blurred. I gripped the edge of the desk and forced myself to keep reading. Dates, vendor notes, deadlines. This wasn't hopeful planning. This was execution. My phone vibrated softly. A text from Ethan. You okay? I stepped into the hallway and called him. They've been planning this for months, I said. My voice sounded hollow even to me. They told everyone I agreed. There was a pause. Then, did you know? Then they crossed a line. I think they've been crossing it for years, I said. I took screenshots, emails, the spreadsheet, receipts. I sent everything to myself, then backed it up again. Each click felt like pulling a thread loose. As I closed the laptop, I noticed a receipt tucked into the desk drawer. A country club membership renewal, $5,000. Dated the same week my father told me money was tight. I returned the drawer exactly as I found it and left the study. Back in the guest room. I sat on the edge of the bed, phone heavy in my hand. The evidence wasn't loud. It didn't scream. It simply existed. By morning, they would still think I didn't know. And for the first time, I understood the advantage of that. Megan didn't let me finish my explanation. Stop, she said. Say that again. Slowly. We were on the phone. My car parked outside my office. Engine off. Megan Brooks had been planning events for a decade. She heard chaos for a living. They told vendors I would pay. I said, they used my name, my card. They planned everything without asking. That's not miscommunication, she said. That's financial abuse. The word landed hard, solid, real. I thought maybe I was, no. Megan cut in. You're not dramatic. You're predictable to them. And they're exploiting it. I closed my eyes. They've always said I was just better with money. That's how it starts, she said. Competence turns into obligation. Obligation turns into entitlement. That night, Ethan's sister Emily came over. She listened without interrupting, arms folded, expression unreadable. This isn't about the wedding, she said when I finished. It's about control. My mother's voice echoed in my head. You're so strong. My father's family comes first. Emily leaned forward. Lauren creates the need. Your mother frames it as love. Your father enforces it. And you're left holding the bill. I swallowed. So, what do I do? You stop rescuing them, she said, and you stop explaining. Later. As Emily was leaving, Mrs. Evelyn Carter from next door stepped into the hallway with a plate of cookies. She'd lived beside us for years, always observant, rarely intrusive. I heard voices, she said gently. Everything all right? Dear, I hesitated, then nodded. I think I finally understand something. She studied my face for a moment. They trained you to be useful, she said quietly. Not to be protected. The words settled into me, heavy but clarifying. After everyone left, Ethan sat beside me on the couch. "You don't have to decide anything tonight," he said. "I know," I said. "But I already have." I wasn't angry. I wasn't scared. I was done confusing loyalty with self-erasure. And that changed everything. They moved faster after that, like they could sense something slipping. Lauren called first. "I told Mark about your marketing position," she said brightly. "Connections matter. Just saying." "I already have the job," I replied. A pause. "Of course. I just meant family helps family." My father followed the next morning. "If this wedding goes smoothly," Richard said, "your mother and I could help with a down payment someday. It's easier when everyone's aligned." Aligned meant obedient. Then my mother called, voice low, careful. "Your aunt asked if I was all right. This stress isn't good for my heart. Claire, you know that. I'm sorry you're stressed," I said. "I didn't create this." She sighed. "People already know. It would be cruel to disappoint them." That night, she posted the announcement, smiling photos, careful wording, so excited to celebrate Claire's wedding and Lauren's anniversary together. Comments poured in. Congratulations. Hearts. Applause for an event I had never agreed to. I texted her, "Please take it down." She called immediately, laughing. "Oh, honey, it's too late now. Everyone's excited." 2 days later, I met Lauren at the bridal boutique. Megan had scheduled a final fitting for my dress. Simple and clean, exactly what I wanted. Lauren arrived wearing sunglasses indoors, my mother trailing behind her. "This is it," Lauren said, circling me. "It's a little plain." "I like it," I said. She lifted a glass of red wine from a nearby table. "I suppose it suits you." Her elbow jerked. The glass tipped. Red spread across the front of my dress, blooming fast and unforgiving. "Oh no," she gasped, hand to her mouth. "I'm so clumsy." The shop assistant rushed over with cloths. My mother touched my arm. "Don't worry, dear. Maybe this is a sign. We'll find something that complements Lauren's anniversary dress better." I stood very still. I felt something settle inside me. Solid and calm. At home. My phone buzzed again. "Lauren, you're being difficult," she snapped. "You've always been dramatic about money." "I'm not paying for this," I said. Silence. Then her voice sharpened. "You owe me. After everything I've done for you." I ended the call. Ethan watched me from the doorway. "You okay? I'm clear," I said. That night, I canceled the unauthorized charges. I changed every password. I documented everything. When my father called again, I answered calmly. "I'll contribute $4,500, I said. "That's my limit. That won't cover. It's my decision," I said. The line went quiet. For the first time, they heard it. I wasn't asking anymore. Hawthorne Ridge Country Club looked exactly like Lauren wanted it to polished. Impressive. Expensive. The venue manager, a man named Daniel with a calm voice and careful eyes, spread the papers across the table. "We'll need signatures to secure the date," he said. "And the deposit today." My father reached for his pen immediately. Of course. I spoke before he could sign. "One thing first." They all looked at me. My mother's smile tightened. Lauren's fingers curled around her phone. "I'll contribute $4,500, I said evenly. "That's my maximum." Daniel glanced up. "So you'll be the primary no?" I said, "I'll be a contributor." Lauren laughed, sharp and quick. "That doesn't even cover the catering." "I know," I said. My father frowned. "Claire, don't be difficult. This is all for family. I'm being clear." I said, "If that doesn't work, we shouldn't move forward." My mother leaned in. "We've already told people." Daniel cleared his throat. "If the contract holders are you and your husband, he said to my parents. Then the remaining balance will be your responsibility. That's fine, my father said. A little too fast. We'll handle it. He signed. My mother followed. Lauren exhaled, triumphant. See easy. Daniel slid the papers back into his folder. We'll invoice accordingly. I nodded and stood. My hands were steady. That night, Ethan and I sat on the floor of our apartment, documents spread between us. I canceled the last fraudulent charge. I removed Lauren's access from every account. I forwarded confirmations to a private folder labeled simply Evidence. You sure about this? Ethan asked quietly. Yes, I said. I've never been more sure. The next morning, Megan called. I found it. She said, a small chapel by Lake Geneva, available the weekend before, no spectacle. Perfect, I said. Ethan's parents offered their lake house for dinner afterward. 20 people, no speeches, no obligations. When my mother called later to ask about guest lists, I answered politely. Everything's handled. Lauren texted, make sure you're on time. I need photos before your ceremony. I replied with a thumbs up and turned my phone face down. They thought the contract secured the event. They didn't realize it secured the truth. And once ink meets paper, intentions stop mattering. Only responsibility remains. My phone buzzed at 7:17 in the morning. My mother's name lit up the screen. Everyone's arriving early, Susan said, breathless. Your father's greeting the Hendersons now. Where are you almost ready? I said. Running a little behind? A pause. Don't do this today, Claire. I won't, I said, and I meant it. I sent a photo to the family group chat. A white robe, a blurred background, nothing identifiable. 3 heart emojis, Lauren replied immediately. Be there by 11:30. I need you for our photos before your ceremony. I set the phone down and turned it face down on the table. At Hawthorne Ridge, 200 chairs were arranged. Candles were lit. Staff moved quickly, trained smiles fixed in place. Daniel, the venue manager, stood near the entrance with a clipboard, his eyes tracking the time. Final payment is due before the ceremony begins, he said to my parents. We'll need confirmation shortly. My father waved him off. The bride is running late. Across the state line. I stood barefoot in a small lakeside chapel near Lake Geneva. The room was quiet. Ethan adjusted his jacket and smiled at me like this was the only place in the world. You okay? He asked. I'm exactly where I need to be, I said. At 9:45, my phone buzzed again. Lauren, people are asking questions. I didn't answer. At 10:10, my father called. I let it ring. At 10:25, my mother texted, the caterer needs approval for adjustments. I turned the phone off. Ethan's father stood at the front of the chapel, holding a folded piece of paper. No microphone, no rehearsal. Just us. We're ready, he said. At Hawthorne Ridge, Daniel returned. Voice firm now. We need the remaining balance to proceed. How much my mother asked, her smile brittle. $44,250, he said. The deposit has been applied. My father's face drained of color. Lauren's voice cut through the room. What do you mean remaining Claire's paying? Daniel looked down at his clipboard. The contract holders are Richard and Susan Whitman. My father laughed once, sharply. There must be a mistake. Daniel didn't flinch. The paperwork is clear. At the chapel, Ethan took my hands. I take you, he said, voice steady. I take you, I said, and felt my shoulders drop for the first time in weeks. At Hawthorne Ridge, guests shifted in their seats. Whispers spread. Phones came out. Lauren grabbed my mother's arm. Call her. She's not answering. Susan whispered. The caterer approached. We need direction. At the lake. Applause filled the room. Someone laughed softly. Someone wiped their eyes. No one checked the time. I now pronounce you husband and wife, Ethan's father said. Ethan kissed me, and the sound that followed wasn't polite clapping. It was relief. At Hawthorne Ridge, Daniel spoke quietly. If payment isn't arranged, we'll have to pause service. My father pulled Susan aside. Voices rose. Lauren stood frozen, mascara already smudging. At the lake house, friends poured drinks. Someone handed me a glass and said, "To peace." I raised it. To choosing it. Later. When I turned my phone back on, the notifications stacked on the screen like a confession. Missed calls, messages, panic. I didn't read them. Across the state, the bill was being printed, names at the top, numbers spelled out in black ink. Responsibility finally matching decision. 2 weddings had been planned. Only one was real, and only one was paid for with freedom. They came the next morning. My mother rang the bell twice. Hard. When I opened the door, she stepped in first, eyes swollen, jaw set. My father followed, rigid. Lauren hovered behind him, arms crossed, mascara smudged like a bruise. "You humiliated us," Susan said before she even looked at me. I stepped aside and let them enter. Ethan stood a few feet behind me, silent. "You left 200 people waiting," Richard said. "You embarrassed this family." "I didn't sign the contract," I said. Lauren scoffed. "You knew what you were doing." "Yes," I said. "I did." My father pulled papers from his coat and slapped them onto the table. "They took it from my retirement. $44,250. Do you understand what you've done?" I set my phone down beside the papers and pressed play. Lauren's voice filled the room, careless and familiar. "Claire will handle it. She always does." Laughter followed. My parents' laughter. Susan's face drained. "That recording is legal," Ethan said quietly. "One-party consent." I slid a folder forward. Emails, the spreadsheet, confirmations. This shows my only payment. $4,500, applied to the deposit. Nothing more. Lauren grabbed a page. "This proves nothing. It proves consent." I said, "Yours, not mine." My father stared at the table. "We can't cover this." "You already did," I said. "You signed. You decided." Susan's voice cracked. "Why would you do this to us?" "I lost $12,800 for Lauren's wedding," I said. "I lost school, time, choices. This time, I paid to leave. This is revenge," my father said. The word sharp. I shook my head. "No, this is consequence." Lauren stepped forward, eyes flashing. "You ruined my anniversary." "I didn't ruin it," I said. "I stopped funding it." Silence fell, thick and uncomfortable. My father looked at Lauren. Lauren looked at my mother. The pattern finally visible. I walked to the door and opened it. "You can go." Susan hesitated. What about family? I met her gaze. Family doesn't spend someone else's future. They left without another word. Ethan came to stand beside me. I closed the door and leaned back against it. Breath steady, heart light, for the first time. The cost was theirs. Thanksgiving came quietly. Ethan set the table while I finished in the kitchen. Megan arrived first, wine in hand. Emily followed with a pie and a grin. Ethan's parents brought flowers and hugs that asked for nothing in return. "Looks good," his mother said, squeezing my arm. "Peace suits you." Halfway through dinner, the doorbell rang again. Lauren stood there alone. No dramatic entrance, no folder. Her shoulders were hunched, her voice lower than I remembered. "I'm in therapy," she said. "Mark told me it was that or divorce." I stepped aside. "You can come in." At the table, conversation resumed carefully. When Lauren reached for the serving dish, she paused. "Is this okay?" "It is," I said, later, while clearing plates. She spoke again. "Dad's retirement account is still frozen. Mom says she finally understands how far things went." "I hope she does," I said. "Understanding is where accountability starts." She nodded. I don't expect forgiveness. I'm not offering it, I said gently. I'm offering boundaries. She accepted that without argument. After everyone left, Ethan handed me a small frame. Inside was a copy of the receipt from Hawthorne Ridge, $4,500, neatly printed. Beneath it, he had written a single line in careful ink, "The price of freedom." "I wanted you to keep it," he said, "not as a reminder of them, as proof of you." I placed it on the shelf, where it caught the light. We sat on the couch, shoulder to shoulder, the apartment quiet and warm. My phone buzzed once with a notification I didn't open. Some stories end with reconciliation. Ours ended with clarity. If you've ever been the reliable one, the one who always steps in, take this with you. You are allowed to stop paying for other people's comfort. And if this story felt familiar, you're not alone. Share it with someone who needs permission to choose themselves. I leaned into Ethan's shoulder, the frame steady on the wall. I didn't inherit peace. I chose it.